Sometimes the most powerful move you'll ever make is disappearing from who you were so you can become who you were meant to be. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to explain it. When life starts feeling heavy, when your mind feels scattered, and when your days begin to feel meaningless, it's a sign that it's time to reset. This isn't about running from your life. It's about stepping back to take full control of it. The version of you that kept breaking promises, staying stuck, making excuses, that version can't follow you into the next chapter. This is about making a serious decision to walk away from the noise, the distractions, and the people who never expected more from you. In this audiobook, you'll learn how to disappear with purpose, rebuild in silence, and return with clarity, strength, and focus. If you're ready to stop living in cycles and finally take your life back, this is the blueprint. Your transformation starts here. Chapter 1. Remove yourself from people who expect nothing from you. If you want real change in your life, the first thing you need to do is this. Remove yourself from people who expect nothing from you. That means the ones who never challenge you, the ones who let you stay lazy, the ones who don't mind if you waste your days and throw away your potential. These people might smile with you, talk with you, even laugh with you, but they're not helping you grow. And if you're not growing, you're slowly falling apart. You have to see this truth clearly, even if it's uncomfortable. Some people will never tell you to improve. They won't ask you to be disciplined. They won't mention the bad habits you've picked up. Why? Because they don't expect anything better from you. And when people expect nothing, you stop expecting more from yourself. You settle. You repeat the same day over and over. You get used to surviving instead of living. That's a slow death, and the worst part is, it feels normal. It feels safe. But safety isn't the goal. Growth is. If you're surrounded by people who expect nothing, you're not just staying the same. You're getting weaker. Every day you don't push forward, you drift backward. And that's why this first step is so critical. You don't have to announce it. You don't have to explain it. Just quietly remove yourself. This isn't about drama. This is about direction. You've got to protect your future, even if it means distancing yourself from people you've known for years. Now, it doesn't mean you're better than them, it means you're more serious about your life. And when you get serious, everything changes. You stop wasting time in pointless conversations. You stop lowering your standards just to fit in. You stop sitting around people who make excuses for why they're stuck. Because when you're trying to transform yourself, you can't be around people who aren't willing to transform anything. Real friends, real people who care, will never be offended by your growth. They'll support it, they'll encourage it, they'll respect it. But if someone starts to get distant just because you're improving, understand this: they were never for your improvement in the first place. They were only comfortable with your struggle. So now you face a choice. Stay liked by the crowd, or become someone you're proud of alone. Because you can't have both. When I was younger, I learnt something that stuck with me. You become the average of the people you spend the most time with. If those people expect you to be average, you'll stay average. But if you choose to separate yourself, even for a while, you give yourself a chance to create something new. You give yourself time to rebuild your mindset. You give yourself space to work hard without opinions and distractions around you. Constantly, that space is powerful. That space can change your life. In that space, you start hearing your own thoughts again. You stop being pulled in 10 directions. You stop performing for people who never clapped for you, and instead you begin working for something real, something personal, something that belongs to you. But it starts with separation, not forever, just long enough to become someone they no longer recognize. And that's the goal, isn't it? to become unrecognizable to the people who knew the old you. Not because you've changed your face, not because you dress differently, but because your habits, your focus, your energy, none of it matches who you used to be. That takes time. That takes solitude. And it takes courage to walk away from people who've made it comfortable to stay the same. Think about this. How many times have you held yourself back just to keep someone else comfortable? How many times did you bite your tongue when you wanted to speak your vision? How many times did you skip your goals just to hang out with people who had none? That's not loyalty. That's self-abandonment. And the longer you do it, the harder it gets to come back to yourself. If you're going to grow, you have to put yourself first. Not in a selfish way, in a responsible way. You're responsible for your future. No one else is. You're responsible for your health, your money, your time, your habits. And if the people around you aren't pushing you to do better with those things, it's time to create distance. Quiet distance. No arguments, no anger, just action. You don't have to cut people off with words. You can do it with decisions. When you stop showing up to waste time, they'll notice. When you stop entertaining small talk, they'll notice. When you stop sharing your struggles with people who have no solutions, they'll notice. And eventually, they'll stop expecting anything from you because you've raised your standard, and people adjust to your new standard, or they leave. Either way, you win. There's a kind of peace that comes when you remove yourself from low expectations. You stop feeling like you have to explain your ambition. You stop feeling guilty for wanting more. You stop hiding your hunger for better. That hunger needs to be fed, not silenced. And the wrong environment will always try to quiet the part of you that wants to grow. Don't let it. You're not meant to stay in rooms that shrink you. You're meant to outgrow them. But you won't outgrow anything if you keep choosing people who never believed you could change. Some of them have already decided who you are. And no matter what you do, they won't see anything else. That's not your problem. That's their limitation. You don't have time to wait for people to believe in you. You have work to do. Start building your new life in private. Focus on your health. Focus on your skills. Fix your routines. Keep your word to yourself. Make your days so productive that you don't even notice who isn't texting you anymore. Don't chase acceptance from people who benefit from your stagnation. Chase improvement. Every single day. And when you do that long enough, the world will adjust. It always does. You don't need a crowd. You need clarity, and clarity only comes when you step away from noise. So take a good look at your circle. Ask yourself, who really expects something great from me? Who checks in when I say I'm working on something big? Who pushes me when I'm slacking? Who holds me accountable when I drift off course? If that list is empty, don't panic. Use it as fuel. Use the emptiness to rebuild. Use the silence to study. Use the time alone to sharpen your discipline. Because soon those same people who expected nothing will wonder how you changed so much. They'll ask what happened. They'll ask what you did. And you'll have no anger, no resentment, no revenge. Just results. Quiet, clear, powerful results. That's the power of removal. That's the gift of disappearing. It's not about hiding. It's about choosing. Choosing to leave what drains you, choosing to stop wasting your time, choosing to walk away from comfort that keeps you weak. Because transformation starts the moment you stop showing up for the same expectations. And it never happens while you're trying to be liked by everyone around you. So here's the truth. If they expect nothing from you, give them exactly that. Nothing. No updates, no attention, no energy. Take it all and pour it into yourself, into your habits, into your vision, into your next level. They'll figure it out later. You're not living for them. You're living for what's possible when you finally bet on yourself. And that starts when you quietly walk away from people who never saw anything in you, because now you do. Chapter 2. Start doing the things you always avoided before. If you're serious about changing your life, then at some point you have to do the exact things you've been running from. Not later, not when you feel ready, but now. You see, the very things you've been avoiding are usually the things that will push you forward the fastest. The uncomfortable conversations, the early mornings, the habits you know you should have started long ago, the books you left unopened, the workouts you promised yourself, the personal goals you wrote down but never started, all of it. If you want to transform, you have to face those things head on, because if you keep avoiding them, you'll keep repeating the same life. Avoidance feels safe in the moment. It gives you a quick escape. It protects your ego. It lets you pretend there's more time, but in reality, it steals your strength. Every time you say not today, you're giving fear more power over you. Every time you push something off, it builds a wall between who you are and who you could become. And that wall doesn't go away until you start tearing it down. One action at a time. You know exactly what you've been avoiding. Everybody does. You don't need a list. You don't need someone else to tell you. It lives in your mind every day. You think about it when you wake up. You remember it when you're scrolling on your phone. You feel it when your heart gets quiet. It's the thing that makes you feel disappointed in yourself. It's the task that keeps showing up in your thoughts, and it's not going anywhere until you deal with it. Most people don't fail because they don't know what to do. They fail because they never do what they already know. They collect advice. They listen to motivation. They talk about improvement. But when it comes time to act, they hesitate. They distract themselves with busy work. They clean their room again. They reply to every message. They binge videos. They avoid what actually matters. And that avoidance becomes a lifestyle, a quiet pattern of staying stuck while pretending to be working. There's a reason you've avoided certain things. They demand something from you. They require focus. They expose your weaknesses. They don't offer instant reward. But that's exactly why they matter. The real work is the stuff that's not fun. It's the thing that takes effort with no immediate results. It's the routine that feels boring. It's the challenge that makes you feel small. But when you do it anyway, when you show up regardless of how you feel, you begin building a different version of yourself. This is the moment you have to stop being scared of your own potential. Not because it's overwhelming, but because it's waiting on you to take control. The truth is, avoiding things creates stress. It weighs on your confidence. It makes you question yourself. You lose respect for yourself when you keep breaking your own promises. You lose trust in your own word, and when you don't trust yourself, you stop dreaming big. You settle for less, because deep down, you don't believe you'll follow through. If you want to gain self-respect, start doing the things you avoid. That's how confidence grows. Confidence doesn't come from saying you'll change. It comes from doing the things you said you would do, even when they're hard, even when you don't feel like it, especially then. When you train yourself to do uncomfortable things daily, you begin to see yourself differently. You stop living in fear. You stop making excuses. You become someone you can count on. The longer you avoid something, the bigger it feels. And yet, most of the time when you finally face it, you realize it was never as difficult as you imagined. You wasted all that energy worrying about something that could have been done in an hour or even 10 minutes. That's the trap of avoidance. It magnifies small tasks and turns them into mental monsters. You can't build a strong life while running from things in your own mind. Doing what you've avoided means being honest with yourself. Maybe it's fixing your finances. Maybe it's cutting out toxic habits. Maybe it's finally admitting you've wasted too much time and now it's time to start over. It's not about shame. It's not about blaming yourself. It's about waking up and taking control. You don't need permission to begin again. You don't need approval from anyone. You just need to decide that from this moment forward, you'll stop hiding from what needs to be done. The best version of you isn't waiting at the end of some perfect plan. It's hidden behind every small action you've been delaying. Start small. One task, 1 hour, one decision. Keep showing up. Over time, what once felt impossible becomes part of your routine. You start getting stronger. You start getting faster, your focus sharpens, your self-talk improves. Because now, you're doing the real work. You're facing what you used to run from. Nobody sees this part. The quiet moments where you force yourself to write or study or build something or fix what's broken. But those are the moments that change you. The world only notices the results, but you'll remember the days you could have made another excuse and didn't. You won't grow by doing what's easy. You grow by choosing what's right. What's right is often the thing you don't want to face. That uncomfortable conversation, that one thing you keep moving to tomorrow's list, that problem you've tried to ignore, that's the exact thing you need to attack. Not later, not next month, now. Because once you start doing what you avoid, your entire life starts shifting. You move different. You think sharper. You stop tolerating your own laziness. And that's what transformation is. It's not sudden. It's not loud. It's daily action on the stuff that matters most. It's being honest enough to say, I've avoided this long enough. I'm done making excuses. I'm handling it today. You do that once, then you do it again, and before long, you're not the same person anymore. You're someone with discipline, with follow-through, with self-respect, and that changes everything. And this is what people don't talk about when they say level up. It's not about looking better. It's not about showing off your results. It's about doing the stuff that makes you better when no one's watching, when no one's clapping, when it's just you and the pressure. That's where character is built. That's where new lives are created. And that's where you're going if you're serious about disappearing from your old self and creating something stronger. Don't overthink it. You already know what to do. You've just been avoiding it. The only thing left now is to start. One thing today, something you've been putting off. Don't wait to feel motivated. Action creates momentum, and momentum gives you energy, and energy keeps you moving. You don't need a perfect plan, you need consistent pressure. Push yourself, not just once, every single day. This chapter of your life doesn't require more talking. It doesn't require more advice. It requires action. On the hard things, on the neglected things, on the things that matter more than your comfort. That's how you earn your transformation. That's how you become someone new. And once you start, don't stop. You'll thank yourself a year from now that you had the strength to begin where most people choose to stay stuck. Chapter 3. Go somewhere new and face life with no excuses. If you truly want to change your life, one of the most powerful decisions you can make is to go somewhere new and face life without excuses. That means stepping away from the place where you've built all your patterns, the routines that keep you stuck, the habits you fall into without thinking, the people who expect you to act a certain way. When you stay in the same environment, it's easy to stay the same person. Everything around you silently pulls you back into who you used to be. But when you change your environment, you create space to become someone different. You don't have to move across the world, but you do have to break away from the places that make it too easy to stay comfortable. A fresh location forces you to deal with life in a different way. You can't fall back into old rhythms because the rhythms don't exist there. You have to wake up and decide who you're going to be, without leaning on your usual distractions. That's when you really meet yourself, not the version shaped by routine, but the version shaped by choice. Most people won't do this. They'll stay in the same place, complain about the same things, and wait for something to magically shift. But change doesn't happen like that. Change is a decision, and sometimes that decision means packing your bag, walking away from everything familiar, and entering a space where no one knows your name. That space can feel lonely. It can feel uncertain. But it's in that space where growth becomes real. When you go somewhere new, you're forced to take full responsibility for your life. You can't blame your friends. You can't point to your surroundings. You can't say, "It's just the way things are here." That excuse is gone. Now it's on you. And that kind of responsibility builds something powerful inside of you. You become someone who owns every part of your day. Every decision matters. Every action has weight. You're not just floating through life anymore, you're building it. And when you stop making excuses, you start seeing what you're really capable of. You begin to feel the pressure of your own standards. You can't hide behind distractions. You can't keep saying tomorrow. You either show up or you don't. That kind of clarity cuts through your laziness. It exposes your weak spots. And if you're serious about becoming someone better, that exposure is exactly what you need. In a new place, you can't carry old behaviors without consequence. You can't repeat the same cycle and expect comfort. Every move counts. Every hour asks for effort. That's the point. You didn't come here to stay the same. You came to rebuild. You came to test yourself. You came to wake up from the version of you that was sleepwalking through life. Excuses don't live where you're going. In the old place, they might have worked. You could say you were too busy. You could say you were tired. You could say you didn't have time. But in this new space, those reasons fall flat. It's quiet. It's real. And in that silence, you either become someone who produces results or someone who just repeats stories. You have to stop giving yourself a way out. If you say you're going to change, then make it real. You don't need another delay. You don't need another explanation. What you need is to face life directly. That means doing the things that scare you. It means showing up when nobody's watching. It means holding yourself accountable, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. Life will test you when you step into something new. It'll bring you discomfort. It'll bring moments of doubt. You'll wonder if you made the right decision. You'll miss the familiarity of your old life. You'll miss the way things used to feel easy. But that's just part of the process. Growth isn't supposed to feel safe. It's supposed to stretch you. It's supposed to pull you out of what's been holding you back. When you go somewhere new, you remove the anchors. The mental ones, the emotional ones, the social ones. You stop dragging around the weight of old expectations. You get to rebuild your standards. You get to choose your pace. You get to decide what matters most without the influence of the same voices that never changed. That's where self-mastery begins, not in theory, but in the practice of living differently. This isn't about running away. It's about leveling up. It's about stepping away from what no longer serves you and walking into something that forces your evolution. If you stay where everything is easy, you'll never grow. If you stay around the same routines, you'll keep living the same story. But when you put yourself in an unfamiliar place, you bring your attention back to the moment. You become more alert, more intentional, more focused, and when you stop making excuses, you also stop needing validation. You no longer look for someone to tell you it's okay to slack off. You don't wait for people to understand your goals. You move in your own lane, you build your own path. You develop a relationship with yourself that's based on action, not on talk. And that relationship becomes the foundation for every result you create going forward. It's going to feel uncomfortable at first. That's how you know it's working. You're supposed to feel challenged. You're supposed to feel a little lost. That's what stepping into something new is about. But in that challenge, you discover your real strength. You realize you don't need every answer to begin. You realize you're more capable than you thought. You realize that excuses were never protecting you. They were only delaying the life you wanted. The people around you won't always understand your decision. That's okay. You didn't make this move for them. You made it because you're tired of staying the same. You're tired of repeating patterns. You're tired of knowing what to do and never doing it. So now you're here. You've chosen a different path. And what you do next matters more than anything you've done before. Start showing up like you mean it. Every single day. Wake up with purpose. Focus on your next step. Stop waiting to feel inspired. Start acting like your future depends on this season, because it does. And even when you doubt yourself, remember this: the old version of you never brought you peace. The version that made excuses never gave you results. So now it's time to become someone who follows through. You don't have to have everything figured out. You just have to keep moving. Keep improving. Keep holding yourself to a higher standard. When you get tired, rest, but don't go back. When you feel lost, pause, but don't give up. Remind yourself why you started. Remind yourself what you walked away from. You didn't leave to stay broken. You left to rebuild. And that rebuild starts every day with the choices you make when no one's watching. It doesn't matter what happened before. What matters now is what you're doing with this moment. Are you going to build, or are you going to stall? Are you going to take action, or are you going to talk about it again? Nobody's coming to push you. You have to push yourself. You have to show yourself what it means to rise. And that begins the moment you stop explaining, stop waiting, and start doing. You'll look back one day and be grateful you made this move. Not just physically, but mentally. You'll see how far you've come, how much stronger you've become, how many limits you broke. But you only get to feel that pride if you stay committed. If you wake up every day and face life with no excuses. That's what it takes to transform. That's what it takes to win. Chapter 4. Change your number and stop picking up old calls. There comes a time in your life when you must decide to stop answering to the old version of yourself. One of the boldest and most honest actions you can take is to change your number and stop picking up old calls. That means stepping away from conversations that no longer serve you. That means cutting off contact with people who only reach out to pull you backward. That means ending the cycle of being emotionally available to people who have no place in the life you're trying to build now. It's not about being cold or heartless. It's about being focused. You can't grow if you're always being pulled back into the same conversations that kept you stuck for years. Every time you respond to someone who brings no value into your life, you lose a little bit of your future. Every time you let someone from your past re-enter your space, you invite their expectations, their judgments, their distractions back in. And once they're in, you start shrinking again. You start explaining yourself again. You start defending your new path to people who never took their own seriously. That cycle ends when you decide to end it. You don't owe anyone access to you just because you've known them for years. You don't owe anyone a response just because they reach out. Not everyone deserves your energy, your time, or your attention, especially not now. Not when you're rebuilding, not when you're trying to become someone stronger, clearer, and more focused. This is your season to protect your space at all costs. Changing your number is a clear decision. It sends a message without words. It says, "I'm not where I used to be, and I'm not going back." People will notice the silence. They'll wonder why you disappeared. Some will think you're avoiding them. Some will feel offended. But you're not disappearing out of fear. You're disappearing out of intention. You're choosing to disconnect from everything that keeps you trapped in an old identity. Because the truth is, not everyone wants to see you grow. Some people were only comfortable with you when you were struggling. When you start rising, they get uncomfortable. And that's exactly why you have to remove yourself from their reach. Every time your phone rings and it's someone who only talks about the past, you have a choice. You can pick up and pretend like nothing's changed. Or you can let it ring, knowing that your silence is protecting your progress. That one choice, repeated enough times, reshapes your entire life. Because when you stop picking up old calls, you start answering the ones that matter. Calls from opportunity, from discipline, from your future self. You begin showing up differently. You start using your time better. You begin moving in alignment with the life you say you want. It's not just about blocking numbers, it's about unblocking your focus. The more time you spend entertaining the past, the less energy you have for what you're building. The old life had its time. You learned from it. You went through it, but you don't have to carry it forward. You don't need constant reminders of the version of you who didn't believe in themselves. You don't need to answer people who disappeared when you needed support. You don't need to listen to stories about the past when your attention needs to be on what you're creating now. Some of the most powerful growth happens when you decide not to respond, not out of hate, not out of pride, but out of purpose. You're not rejecting people. You're protecting your direction. You're making space for new relationships, new conversations, new goals, because what you entertain is what you become. And if your phone keeps pulling you into gossip, into nonsense, into old cycles, you're giving your power away, one call at a time. You have to understand that your new life will require different boundaries. You're not the same person anymore. You can't give everyone the same level of access they used to have. Growth demands isolation at first. It demands privacy. It demands peace. And peace isn't found in your phone. It's found in your choices, in your routines, in your silence. When you stop picking up those calls, something interesting happens. You hear your own thoughts again. You start thinking for yourself. You start noticing how much of your life used to revolve around other people's opinions. You start reclaiming your time. You begin organizing your mind. You stop being reactive and start becoming intentional. That shift is powerful, because now you're not just responding to life, you're directing it. You don't need to explain yourself to anyone. You don't need to write long messages about why you're stepping away. You don't owe that to anyone. You just need to act in alignment with your goals. Let your growth speak. Let your results speak. Let your silence speak. If someone really cares about you, they'll grow too. They'll understand. They'll respect your space. If they don't, then their presence was only temporary anyway. The process of transformation isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just quiet discipline, quiet removal, quiet decisions. And changing your number is one of those decisions. It cuts off the noise. It resets your environment. It allows you to build a new rhythm without old interference. You get to decide who gets access. You get to decide what kind of energy surrounds you. You get to decide what kind of conversations you have daily. That power belongs to you. Don't underestimate how much progress is lost through one distracting phone call, one negative message, one unneeded conversation. Those moments seem small, but they break your focus, they drain your drive, they bring back old emotions that slow down your progress. Your mind needs space to think clearly. Your goals need room to breathe. And you can't have that if your phone is a gateway to your past. This is the part where you choose your future over your familiarity. It's not easy at first. You'll feel tempted to respond. You'll feel guilty. You'll feel like you're being distant. But you're not being distant. You're being disciplined. You're doing what most people don't have the courage to do. You're cleaning your environment. You're resetting your standards. You're proving to yourself that you don't need constant connection to have meaning. Your worth isn't tied to how many people can reach you. It's tied to how deeply you can focus on what matters. Don't just change your number. Change the relationship you have with your time. Change the way you protect your energy. Change the way you allow others to influence your mood. That's how real transformation happens, not just in what you do, but in what you stop allowing. When you take back control of who can reach you, you take back control of your life. Eventually the noise will fade. The pressure to respond will disappear. You'll feel a calm that you haven't felt in years. Not because life got easier, but because you stopped letting the past call you every day. You'll begin to feel clear. You'll begin to feel grounded. And that's when you'll know you made the right decision. You left behind what you had to, so you could become who you were meant to. You disconnected from the noise to finally connect with yourself. And from there, everything starts to change. Chapter 5. Stop trying to be understood by the wrong people. One of the most exhausting things you can do in life is try to explain yourself to people who are never going to understand you. You keep talking, keep explaining, keep trying to justify your decisions, your vision, your growth, and all it does is drain your energy. The wrong people are not interested in your reasons. They're not asking to understand so they can support you. Most of the time they ask so they can challenge you, question you, or make you second-guess yourself. And every time you take the bait, you lose focus on what really matters, your own path. You don't need everyone to get it. You don't need everyone to clap. You don't need them to nod in agreement. You need to stop trying so hard to be understood by people who are only comfortable with the older version of you, the one who kept quiet, the one who followed the crowd, the one who didn't challenge the norm. As soon as you begin to grow, they get uncomfortable. They start questioning your choices. They start making comments. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something different, and different threatens their comfort. There's a big difference between being around people who challenge you in a healthy way and being around people who tear you down every time you aim higher. You have to know the difference. If someone doesn't believe in personal change, they'll never support your transformation. If someone sees life only through their own limitations, they'll try to put those limits on you. If someone's afraid to evolve, they'll laugh when you try, not because you're wrong, but because your courage reminds them of their own fear. You weren't born to convince everyone. You're not here to explain your fire to people who are scared of heat. You're here to do the work, to grow, to rise, and not everyone can come with you. That's reality. Stop making it your mission to be accepted by people who barely accept themselves. Their opinions don't build your life. Their approval doesn't move you forward. You owe it to yourself to stop shrinking just to be understood. Trying to make the wrong people understand is like pouring water into a broken cup. No matter how much effort you give, it never stays. It leaks, and you're the one left feeling tired and frustrated. That's not growth. That's emotional debt. You're constantly over-explaining, constantly over-giving, constantly trying to prove your worth. And for what? Their validation. You don't need it. You need your own respect. And you earn that by walking in truth, not by begging for agreement. You don't have to argue with people who don't see what you see. You don't have to debate your goals. You don't have to get them to understand your pain, your process, or your purpose. Some things aren't meant to be explained. Some things are meant to be done. Let your actions be louder than your words. Let your growth speak for itself. Let your discipline, your results, your consistency make the statement. Every time you stop to explain yourself, you lose momentum. You pause your progress just to get someone else to nod their head. That's a waste of time. The people who are right for you won't need endless explanations. They'll see your effort. They'll feel your energy. They'll support your growth even if they don't fully understand it. You don't have to convince the right people and the wrong ones. You couldn't convince them even if you tried for years. You're not selfish for wanting to protect your peace. You're not cold for walking away from people who only drain you. You're not arrogant for keeping your goals to yourself. You're focused, and focus looks selfish to people who live in distraction. Don't let that bother you. You're not living for their comfort. You're living for your growth. And growth often looks like silence. It looks like doing your work without talking about it. It looks like moving forward without explaining where you're going. Some people only show interest in your life so they can criticize it. Don't give them the chance. Protect your journey. Keep it close. Not everything needs to be shared. Not every plan needs an audience. Not every step requires approval. Sometimes the best thing you can do is disappear from their reach and reappear when you've become someone they can't recognize. You're not responsible for someone else's limited mindset. You're not required to slow down just because they won't speed up. You don't owe anyone your potential. It's not your job to dim your light so they can feel comfortable in the dark. You were given a life, just one, and it's your responsibility to use it, fully and honestly. That means doing what's right for your future, even when it doesn't make sense to everyone around you. This is where strength is built, not in explaining yourself, but in continuing forward when you're misunderstood. That takes more courage than most people realize, because being misunderstood feels lonely. It feels unfair. It makes you question your path. But that's where real growth happens, when you keep going anyway, when you stop talking and start building. When you stop needing to be seen and start living in alignment with your purpose, you will lose people in this process. Some of them won't reach out anymore. Some of them will say you've changed. Some will even mock your growth. Let them go. That loss is not a tragedy. It's a filter. It removes the ones who never really supported you to begin with. It creates space for the ones who truly align with who you're becoming. You can't keep explaining your growth to people who never wanted you to grow in the first place. You can't keep hoping they'll see your vision when they've never looked past their own comfort. That hope is a distraction. Let it go. Release the need to be understood by everyone. Most of the world will only understand you once you succeed. And even then, many still won't get it. That's okay. You're not here to be understood. You're here to become who you were meant to be. There's a kind of freedom that comes when you stop explaining yourself. A quiet strength. A steady focus. You begin to feel lighter. You stop carrying the weight of their opinions. You stop adjusting your life to fit their expectations. You stand tall in your own decisions. You move in your own direction. And that's when things begin to shift. Not outside, but inside. You no longer need their permission. You no longer need their praise. You've chosen your path, and that's enough. This isn't about being rude. It's about being real. It's about no longer begging people to believe in something they'll never understand. It's about refusing to keep your dreams small just to make someone else feel secure. You've done enough explaining. You've done enough convincing. Now it's time to act, to focus, to build. And when you finally stop trying to be understood by the wrong people, you create room to understand yourself fully. That's where transformation starts. When your attention is no longer scattered. When your energy is no longer wasted. When your decisions are no longer filtered through someone else's comfort, you stop asking, will they approve? And start asking, does this align with who I'm becoming? That's the question that changes everything. That's the moment you stop surviving in other people's stories and start living in your own. Chapter 6. Learn to enjoy progress when no one claps for you. One of the most important things you will ever learn in your journey of transformation is how to keep moving forward when nobody is watching. You must train yourself to enjoy progress even when no one notices. Because if your motivation depends on applause, you'll stop the moment the crowd goes quiet. And in real life, the crowd is quiet most of the time. Most of your work will happen in silence. Most of your growth will take place without attention. Most of your wins will be unseen, but that doesn't make them any less valuable. You have to stop waiting for others to clap before you feel proud. You have to stop relying on validation just to keep going. Your discipline has to come from within. If no one compliments your progress, does that make it meaningless? Of course not. You're not doing this for attention. You're doing it to change your life, to become stronger, to build something real. And real success isn't loud, it's quiet. It's found in the consistent effort you give when it seems like no one cares. That's where the real foundation is built. Too many people quit because they don't get the recognition they expected. They show up for a few weeks hoping someone will notice. When no one does, they slow down, they get discouraged, they start telling themselves it's not worth it. But the truth is, they were never really doing it for themselves, they were doing it for reaction. And when the reaction wasn't there, neither was the commitment. You have to reverse that mindset. You have to keep going even if your progress is invisible to the world, because the one person who should see it, you does. You need to learn how to be proud of small steps. You need to find joy in the process, not just the outcome. The day you stop measuring your effort by how many people notice is the day you gain real control over your life. You start living by your own standards. You stop chasing praise. You begin to enjoy the work for what it is, a personal contract between who you are and who you're becoming. There will be seasons in your life when nobody checks in, nobody asks how it's going, nobody sees the late nights, the early mornings, the sacrifices, the focus, and it'll be tempting to slow down. You'll wonder if any of it matters, but that's the exact moment you need to double down, because that quiet season is what separates those who are truly committed from those who are just looking for approval. Think about this. What kind of person are you when no one's watching? What kind of effort do you give when there's no feedback, no recognition, no audience? That's the real test. That's where character is built, not on stage but in solitude, not in front of crowds but in front of the mirror. You've got to learn to look at your own progress and say, I'm proud of this, even if no one else ever says it to you. When you rely on praise to feel good about your work, you become a slave to other people's opinions. But when you rely on your own sense of purpose, you become free. You stop needing approval to act. You stop waiting for someone to say good job before you keep going. You start holding yourself to a higher standard, not because someone's watching, but because you've decided that your growth is non-negotiable. And it's not that praise is bad, it's just that praise is unreliable. People are inconsistent. One day they'll support you, the next day they're gone. You can't let your identity depend on that. You can't let your confidence rise and fall with who shows up to clap, because sometimes the world is silent while you're making your biggest leap forward. That silence doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're in a season of building, a season of becoming, and that season is sacred. Your job is to keep stacking days of quiet progress, one after another. Keep doing the work when it's boring. Keep showing up when it feels unnoticed. Keep honoring your goals when it would be easier to walk away, because every single day you show up without applause, you're proving to yourself that this time it's real. This time you're not quitting halfway through. This time you're not stopping when it gets hard. You're in it fully. No conditions, no outside approval needed. You have to create your own internal scoreboard. Keep track of the times you stayed consistent. Notice the moments you pushed through discomfort. Celebrate the progress no one else sees. That's how you build internal strength. That's how you become someone who doesn't need constant reassurance. That's how you build confidence from action, not attention. This is the part most people skip. They don't know how to sit with the silence. They don't know how to enjoy the process without someone cheering them on. But you must learn to love that part. You must learn to love the quiet grind, the private victories, the personal breakthroughs. That's the real reward. Not applause, but pride. Not attention, but growth. Not approval, but peace of mind that you're finally doing what you said you would do. Don't confuse silence with failure. Don't confuse lack of attention with lack of progress. You're not behind. You're just finally building something real, something that doesn't need to be posted to be meaningful, something that doesn't need to be praised to be powerful. You're building your future in private, and that's what makes it strong. There's no timeline for success. Some of your biggest gains won't be visible for months or even years, but that doesn't mean they're not happening. Every early morning adds up. Every hour of focus counts. Every small win moves you forward. You don't need applause to keep going. You need discipline. You need clarity. You need to remember why you started. And you need to keep reminding yourself that progress is still progress, even if it's quiet. Keep your standards high, even when no one's watching. Keep your goals in sight, even when no one asks about them. Keep your promise to yourself, even when no one reminds you, because one day the results will speak. One day your discipline will show. One day the people who ignored your progress will see what you've built. But by then you won't care who's clapping. You'll be too focused on what's next, too locked in, too driven, because you trained yourself to love the process, not the attention. This is what it means to be committed. This is what it means to be serious, not just excited when things are new, not just loud when things go well, but steady, quiet, consistent, focused, unshaken by the silence, proud of your progress, even when no one claps. That's how you build a life worth living. That's how you become someone no one can ignore, because your results are louder than any words. Chapter 7. Break your own patterns before they break your future. If you don't take full control of your behavior will control your life, and not in a way that serves you, in a way that limits you, keeps you stuck, and quietly holds you back while convincing you that everything is fine. Most people don't ruin their lives all at once. They do it slowly, through patterns they never questioned, through habits they didn't break, through daily choices that felt comfortable but took them further and further away from where they could have been. If you're serious about your future, you have to stop lying to yourself. You have to look in the mirror and admit what needs to change. You have to break your own patterns before they break your future. Your life right now is a result of what you repeat, not what you wish for, not what you think about late at night, but what you do every single day without even thinking. And that's the problem. Most of your actions have become automatic. You don't even notice them anymore. You wake up, scroll your phone, delay your goals, avoid your hard tasks, waste your focus, and tell yourself tomorrow will be different. But it won't, because nothing changes until you do something about it. And not once, but consistently. You've got to be willing to see how your own behavior is creating your problems. That takes honesty. That takes maturity. It takes a decision to stop blaming the outside world and start dealing with the real cause, your patterns, because no one's stopping you from building discipline. No one's holding you back from waking up early. No one is forcing you to procrastinate or make excuses. That's on you, and the sooner you take ownership of that, the sooner you can start building something new. It's easy to pretend that your habits are small, that they don't matter, but your habits are shaping your future, whether you like it or not. Every lazy choice, every missed opportunity, every ignored responsibility, it all adds up. It doesn't just disappear. It compounds over time, and what starts as a small pattern becomes a lifestyle, a routine, a way of thinking, and eventually a way of living that you can't escape unless you decide to stop it now. Breaking your own patterns is hard. It's uncomfortable. You're going to feel resistance, because the mind doesn't like change. It likes safety, repetition, and familiarity. It wants to keep you in the same routine, even if that routine is destroying your potential. But comfort is the enemy of growth. If you keep choosing what feels easy, you'll keep living a life that feels unfulfilled. The hard path is the right one, the path where you face your weak spots, where you attack your laziness, where you remove your excuses. That's where real growth begins. You already know the patterns that are hurting you. You don't need someone else to list them. You know when you're wasting time. You know when you're escaping responsibility. You know when you're choosing what's easy over what's right. The problem isn't awareness. The problem is that you've allowed these patterns to become normal. And if you're not careful, that version of normal becomes your ceiling. You get stuck repeating the same cycles, living the same life, and wondering why nothing ever improves. So what's the way out? You start with one thing, one behavior that you know is costing you peace, focus, energy, or progress, and you confront it directly. You replace it with something better. You hold yourself to a new standard, and you don't wait for the perfect day. You don't wait for motivation. You start now, because the longer you wait, the stronger the pattern becomes, the deeper it digs into your routine, and eventually it becomes your identity. There's nothing more painful than watching your future slip away because of choices you could have controlled. Don't be the person who wakes up 10 years from now and regrets the things they never changed. Regret doesn't come from failure. It comes from knowing you had the power to improve but didn't. It comes from knowing you kept doing the same things even though they were hurting you. That's avoidable. That's in your control. You can change your patterns before they become permanent, but don't expect it to be easy. This isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily battle. You're going to feel the pull of your old self. You're going to want to quit. You're going to make mistakes. That's part of it. But if you stay consistent, if you keep choosing what's right over what's comfortable, things will start to shift, slowly at first, then faster. Your thoughts will get clearer. Your confidence will grow. Your energy will rise. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. Start by taking full responsibility for everything you do. No blaming, no complaining, just action. If your mornings are unproductive, fix them. If your sleep schedule is broken, fix it. If your goals keep getting ignored, write them down and build systems around them. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. You need to show yourself that you're in control now, that your future is being built with intention. Pay attention to your routines. What do you do when you're tired? What do you do when you feel overwhelmed? What do you do when you feel like giving up? Those moments reveal your patterns, and those patterns reveal your future. If you keep checking out every time life gets hard, you'll never build resilience. If you keep running from your hard tasks, you'll never build skill. If you keep hiding behind excuses, you'll never build belief. Don't wait until the consequences show up. Don't wait until your lack of effort costs you an opportunity. Don't wait until your poor choices affect people around you. Start now. Start by identifying the patterns that no longer match the person you want to become. Then attack those patterns with everything you've got. Replace them with discipline, consistency, and purpose. Not for show, not for praise, for you. For the life you said you wanted, for the future that's still within reach. You don't need to fix everything overnight, but you do need to start. And once you start, don't stop. Keep going even when it's hard. Keep showing up even when it's boring. Keep fighting back every time your old habits try to creep in. That's how change happens. Not in big leaps, but in small victories, earned every single day. Your future isn't written yet. It's still being shaped by what you do today. So choose better. Break the cycle. End the habits that are keeping you small. Take control of your behavior before your behavior takes control of your life. This is your moment. This is your time. But only if you're willing to let go of what's been holding you back. Nothing changes until you do. Nothing improves until you take it seriously. And once you do, everything begins to shift. Quietly, powerfully, permanently. Chapter 8. Let go of who you were to become better. Becoming better means being honest about who you've been and deciding that version of you is no longer enough. If you truly want to grow, you have to let go of who you were, not because that person was weak or wrong, but because they brought you as far as they could. The habits you had, the way you thought, the excuses you made, the way you handled your time, your relationships, your emotions, if those patterns were going to take you to the next level, they would have already done it. But they didn't, which means you need to let them go, and that means letting go of the version of yourself who kept choosing them. The old you was based on survival. Maybe you did what you had to do just to get by. Maybe you were surrounded by people who didn't push you. Maybe you believed things about yourself that were never true but felt comfortable to hold on to. Maybe you played small because it was easier than risking failure. But now you're here, you're waking up, you're starting to realize that better is possible, but only if you stop holding on to what's familiar. It's hard to let go of the past when it's all you've ever known, your routines, your mindset, even your self-image. They've been with you for years. They've shaped your choices, your relationships, your identity, but none of those things are permanent unless you keep repeating them. You're not trapped unless you keep choosing to stay where you are. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting who you were. It means releasing the grip of what no longer serves you. It means deciding that the old way is no longer the right way. You can't become someone new while dragging your past with you. Every time you try to rise, your old habits pull you back. Every time you try to act differently, your self-doubt reminds you of your mistakes. Every time you try to focus on your future, your past whispers reminders of all the times you failed. That voice doesn't go away until you silence it with action, not by arguing with it, not by overthinking it, but by doing something new long enough that it stops being part of your story. Growth demands a new identity, not one built on who you used to be, but one built on who you're becoming. You have to stop saying things like, "I've always been like this," or "That's just how I am." No, that's how you've chosen to be. That's how you've operated up to now. But that isn't your limit. That's just your history. And if you keep identifying with your history, you'll keep repeating it. You'll go in circles, chasing change while still clinging to the person who resists it. You have to give yourself permission to evolve. You're allowed to outgrow people, places, beliefs, behaviors, even dreams that once made sense. You're allowed to say, "That version of me was necessary, but it's not who I want to be anymore." That kind of honesty takes strength. That kind of clarity changes your direction. It helps you step into growth without constantly checking back to see if the old version of you approves. Some people around you won't understand the shift. They'll try to remind you of who you were. They'll bring up your past. They'll try to fit you into a version of yourself that no longer feels right. Don't shrink to fit their memory. Don't go backwards just to be accepted. If they can't accept your growth, they don't belong in your future. Their view of you doesn't define you. Their words don't determine your limits. You have to protect your transformation, even if that means walking alone for a while. Letting go is not just about cutting people off or deleting photos. It's about cutting the emotional attachment to habits that keep you stuck. It's about ending the cycle of reacting the same way to stress, to fear, to setbacks. It's about building a new mental script, one that doesn't start with doubt or finish with excuses. You have to learn to speak to yourself like someone who deserves better, because you do. But if you don't believe it, you'll sabotage every opportunity for change that comes your way. You can't heal while holding on to the identity that was created in pain. You can't rise while clinging to beliefs that were built in survival. At some point, you have to say, "I'm done defending the person who kept me stuck." And when you say that and mean it, things begin to shift. You stop reacting the same way. You stop feeding the same emotions. You stop looking for permission to change. You just change. This process isn't about perfection. You're going to slip. You're going to catch yourself acting like the old version again. That's normal, but now you'll notice it. And when you notice it, you can change it. That's the key. Awareness plus action. Day by day, moment by moment, you keep choosing the new you over the old one. And with time, the old version loses power, the habits lose grip, the triggers lose impact, and you start to walk differently, think differently, live differently. It will feel uncomfortable at first. Letting go always does. You might feel like you're losing yourself, but you're not. You're finding yourself, your real self, the one that isn't shaped by fear, the one that isn't defined by your past, the one that's been buried under years of compromise, distraction, and limitation. You're peeling all of that away, layer by layer, until you meet the version of you that's been waiting to take over. This isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily commitment. You have to choose it every morning. You have to protect it every night. You have to remind yourself, "I'm not going back," even when it's tempting to slip into old comfort, because comfort can cost you everything if it keeps you in the wrong life. The future doesn't belong to the person who never changes. It belongs to the one who changes on purpose. So take a deep breath. Be honest about what's no longer working. Let go of the story that says you can't change. Let go of the identity built in fear. Let go of the patterns that kept you surviving but never thriving. Let go of the version of you that settled for less. And then take a step, a real step, one that feels hard, one that feels uncertain, because that's what growth feels like. You don't need to wait until you feel ready. Readiness is a feeling that follows action, not the other way around. Start showing up as the person you want to become. Start acting like the version of you who gets things done, who follows through, who doesn't let the past control the present. You don't need permission. You don't need validation. You need a decision. One real decision that says, I'm done being who I was. It's time to become who I'm meant to be. And once you make that decision, everything begins to change. Not because the world gets easier, but because you get clearer. Because now you're not trying to grow while dragging the weight of who you used to be. You're not trying to move forward while tied to an outdated version of yourself. You're free, free to rebuild, free to improve, free to become. And that freedom is what gives your future its power. Chapter 9. Build a lifestyle that protects your peace every day. Peace doesn't just show up when life gets quiet. Peace is something you have to build. If you want to protect your focus, your energy, your mind and your future, you have to create a lifestyle that guards your peace every single day. Not when it's convenient, not when you're on vacation, every day. It starts with how you wake up. It continues with what you let in. It grows based on who you spend time with. And it either gets stronger or weaker depending on how well you respect your time, your space and your standards. When your life is constantly loud, full of distractions, chaos, meaningless conversations, and emotional drama, you lose connection with yourself. You begin reacting instead of thinking. You spend your day putting out fires that were never yours to manage in the first place. You say yes when you should have said no. You stretch yourself thin, trying to keep up with people who aren't moving in the same direction as you. And by the time the day ends, you're mentally drained but have nothing meaningful to show for it. That's the cost of not building a life around your peace. Peace isn't passive. It's not about hiding from responsibility or avoiding real problems. It's about creating a life that supports your well-being, not one that constantly drains it. And that takes intention. That takes choices you make on purpose. You can't leave your peace up to chance. You can't just hope the day goes well. You have to set boundaries. You have to simplify. You have to make room for stillness. And you have to remove anything that keeps stealing your clarity and calling it normal. The first place to look is your routine. How do you start your morning? What do you do with your first hour? Are you checking your phone? What do you do with your first hour? Are you checking your phone? What do you do with your first hour? Are you checking your phone? What do you do with your first hour? Are you checking your phone? What do you do with your first hour? Are you checking your phone? What do you do with your first hour? Are you checking your phone? Topping, are you letting outside voices control your thoughts before your own mind even has a chance to wake up? That's where peace gets lost for a lot of people. First thing in the morning, you wake up, and instead of grounding yourself in clarity, you flood your brain with opinions, news, notifications and noise, and you wonder why you feel scattered the rest of the day. That's not peace, that's overload. Build a routine that centers you before the world pulls at you. Take time to think, to write, to stretch, to breathe, to review your goals. That's not being selfish, that's being prepared. You can't expect to stay calm and focused when you start your day with chaos. Give yourself a foundation. That first hour of the day matters more than most people think. It sets the tone for your decisions, your focus, and your emotional state. Next, look at your environment. Who do you allow in your space? What kind of energy do they bring? Do they support your growth, or do they pull you into drama? Do they add stress or remove it? Do they respect your time or waste it? This matters. Peace doesn't survive in an environment where people are constantly draining you. You don't need people who leave you feeling tired after every conversation. You need people who understand your boundaries, who speak life into your vision, who move with discipline and purpose. And that doesn't mean you cut everyone off. It means you become selective. You create distance where needed. You protect your time like it's the most valuable thing you have, because it is. If someone doesn't respect your boundaries, they don't respect your peace. And if they don't respect your peace, they don't respect your growth. And if they don't respect your growth, they don't belong in your daily life. What you consume matters too. Your peace is affected by the content you allow into your mind, the shows you watch, the music you listen to, the posts you scroll through, the conversations you have. All of it shapes your thinking, your mood, your energy. Most people are anxious not because of what's happening in their life, but because of what they're feeding their mind every day. If your daily input is full of negativity, comparison, outrage, and distraction, how can you expect to feel clear and centered? You have to be intentional about what you consume. Fill your mind with things that push you forward. Read books that challenge you to grow. Listen to voices that teach, that motivate, that help you stay grounded. Spend less time on things that stir up anxiety and more time on things that bring clarity and direction. You don't have to keep up with everything that's happening in the world. You just have to stay in control of your world. That's your responsibility. That's your focus. Peace also comes from being in control of your commitments. Stop over-promising. Stop saying yes out of guilt. Stop filling your calendar with things that don't align with your priorities. One of the fastest ways to lose your peace is by living your life according to other people's demands. You have the right to say no. You have the right to choose rest. You have the right to move slower, to think clearly, to work with intention. Busyness is not a badge of honor, it's a trap. A full schedule doesn't mean a full life. A full mind doesn't mean a clear purpose. You have to protect your energy from being scattered across 100 different directions. Simplify your commitments. Create space in your week to rest, to reflect, to realign. Without that space, your life becomes a cycle of exhaustion, and in that state, peace cannot grow. Your habits either protect your peace or destroy it. Drinking enough water, getting real sleep, keeping your space clean, setting time limits on social media, preparing your meals instead of eating out every day. These aren't small things. These are acts of respect, acts of control. When you do the little things well, the big things get easier. When your life is organized, your mind feels lighter, and when your mind feels lighter, you make better decisions. That's how peace is created, by putting structure in place that supports your mental health, not sabotages it. You also have to learn to stop responding to everything. Not every message needs a reply. Not every conflict needs your involvement. Not every opinion needs a reaction. One of the most powerful things you can do is pause. Take a breath. Decide if it's worth your time and energy. Most of the time it's not. Learn to walk away without guilt. Learn to stay silent without feeling like you're losing. Peace is won through discipline, emotional, mental, and behavioral. Lastly, recognize that peace comes from alignment. When your actions match your values, when your goals match your efforts, when your time is spent on things that matter, when your surroundings reflect what you truly care about, you'll never feel calm if you're constantly betraying your own priorities. You'll never feel settled if your life is filled with things that don't belong to the version of you you're trying to build. Protecting your peace doesn't mean life gets easy. It means life gets clearer. It means you stop running in circles. It means you focus on what matters and stop being pulled into what doesn't. It means you stop apologizing for taking care of yourself. It means you stop waiting for burnout to teach you a lesson. You get ahead of it. You take control now. Build a life that honors your need for clarity. Build a routine that brings stillness, not stress. Build a circle that respects your space, not just your time. Build habits that create order, not chaos. Because if you don't protect your peace, the world will take it from you, one demand at a time, one distraction at a time, one careless choice at a time. You deserve to live with a clear mind. You deserve to feel focused and calm and strong. But that kind of life isn't handed to you. It's built. One decision at a time, one boundary at a time, one habit at a time. So start building, not for show, not for anyone else, but for yourself, for your future, for your peace. Chapter 10. Return only when your silence feels more powerful. Disappearing is not about running away, it's about making space. Space to rebuild, space to think clearly, space to separate yourself from noise, opinions, distractions, and everything that kept you playing small. There comes a time when the best thing you can do for your future is step away from everything and everyone long enough to find your strength in silence, not to prove a point, not to seek revenge, but to recover, to realign, and to finally become the version of yourself that no one saw coming. And when that silence becomes stronger than any explanation, that's when you return, not to talk, not to argue, not to prove, but to move with presence that doesn't need words. Most people come back too early. They leave for a few days, a few weeks, maybe a month, but nothing changes because they never truly disconnected. They still explain, they still justify, they still try to show progress before it's fully developed. But real transformation isn't rushed. You don't owe updates while you're in the process. You don't owe proof while you're still learning to walk again. The silence is where your strength builds. The silence is where your mindset sharpens. The silence is where you develop the habits that will carry your future. You have to get comfortable not being seen, not being heard, not being noticed, and instead of fighting that, you use it. You use that space to become unrecognizable to your former self. You stop telling people what you're going to do and start building a life they never saw coming. Every hour in silence is an investment in your future identity. Every day you don't explain yourself, you grow stronger in discipline. Every night you don't react to negativity, you protect your power. You've got to understand something. Attention means nothing if you have no results to show. It doesn't matter who's watching if your habits are still weak. It doesn't matter who hears you speak if you still break promises to yourself. Silence is your training ground. It strips away distraction. It forces you to face yourself. No applause, no noise, just you and your effort. And that's where the real work begins. No one can fake strength in silence. No one can pretend in private. You either build or you break. Disappearance isn't about being dramatic. It's not a tactic. It's a commitment. A promise to no longer waste energy on proving your worth to people who don't matter. A decision to no longer speak just to be heard. The old you relied on being seen. The stronger you will move with purpose, whether anyone sees it or not. You'll learn to live in discipline, even when it's quiet. You'll learn to succeed without recognition. You'll learn to win internally before you ever see external results. And when your silence becomes more powerful than your voice ever was, you'll know you're ready to return. Not return to prove anything, not return to remind people of who you are, but to quietly operate at a higher level. You won't need attention. You won't need validation. Your presence will speak for itself. Because now your life reflects the work. The routine speaks through your results. The consistency speaks through your energy. The strength you built in silence becomes your new foundation. When people ask where you've been, you won't need to explain. When they wonder why you changed, you won't need to justify. When they notice your discipline, your clarity, your focus, you won't owe them anything, because you didn't disappear to be missed. You disappeared to become, and you came back only when you knew that your silence had done more for you than any explanation ever could. The reason this works is because most people waste energy trying to be understood while they're still confused themselves. They seek validation in the middle of their rebuild. But real transformation doesn't beg to be noticed. It happens in stillness. It happens in repetition. It happens behind the scenes, away from the spotlight, while everyone else is distracted by noise. That's your edge. That's your space to evolve. You don't come back to tell people what you've changed. You come back and let them feel the shift, in how you speak less and do more, in how you keep promises without announcing them, in how you no longer react to things that used to throw you off. You operate with maturity. You walk with a pace that's unbothered. You live by standards that don't need defending, because your transformation wasn't for them, it was for you. The most dangerous person is the one who has learned to move without needing attention. They don't waste time defending their growth. They don't break focus to prove their worth. They don't show off the process, they live it. And because of that, everything they do hits differently. Their results speak volumes. Their actions hold weight. Their energy shifts rooms, and none of it needed to be announced. When you return, don't bring back the old mindset. Don't bring back the urge to explain every step. Don't fall into the trap of needing to be understood again. You've already proven enough to yourself. Let that be enough. Keep your peace. Keep your standards. Keep your distance if it protects your progress. Stay quiet if the noise distracts your mind. You owe no one access to the version of you that took years to build. You've worked too hard to go back to the habits that broke you. You've sacrificed too much to return to the people who drained you. You've healed too deeply to engage with the situations that once triggered you. So when you return, do it with a new presence, one that doesn't entertain old energy, one that doesn't explain hard choices, one that doesn't slow down for anyone stuck in the past. The truth is, most people won't understand the kind of silence that builds real power, because they've never lived it. They've never stepped away from comfort long enough to change. They've never disappeared from noise long enough to find clarity. But you did, and that silence has now become your strength. It's in your eyes, in your posture, in your routine. You don't need to talk about it, you just live it. So hold that silence, honor it, let it continue to guide your decisions, let it keep you grounded. You don't have to be loud to be respected. You don't have to be seen to be strong. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is no move at all, just focus, work, patience and stillness. Return only when you know your energy no longer chases. Return only when your presence no longer explains. Return only when your silence carries more weight than your old words ever did. And when you do, walk in the room like nothing happened but everything changed. Because it did. And now the world has no choice but to adjust.